So when you say scams, what do you mean specifically? Because they have you have the woman or you have the guy who's standing on the corner with the sign that's saying we'll work for food, and after the day is up, they go and they jump in their car behind the bank and they pull off, counting up the money. That's a form of a scam, right? Or you have the guys or the women who are dressed in the military gear. It's majority of the time is guys, and they're faking like they're veterans or something, right? Just to see if they can get some extra, right? That's like a scam. Or when you say scam, are you talking about like the 18-year-old we see on Instagram or the 20-year-old with 3 Hellcats, 4 rental properties, and he's promoting crypto, and he's got 6 chains on with 2 watches, and he's got the jewelry like the rappers. So what are you talking about when you say scams? What do you mean specifically?
As you mentioned, like you said, these guys that got these living this luxurious lifestyle, picturing it to people. I say those are scams as well too. But I'm talking as far as like doing fraudulent checks. Telling people they can give you $100 and you'll flip it. Bitcoin flips. Smuggling, going as far as like human trafficking. It's all kinds of things. CPNs, VPNs, all kinds of things. Dark web. Those are all scams as well too.
Okay, you touched on a lot of points right there. So as far as the scamming goes with the people to people or the checks and cards and stuff, were you ever dibbling and dabbing in that field?
I was never dipping and dabbing into like the cards. I was just more so like with the fraudulent checks, pretty much. That was my thing.
Okay, and if you can legally without getting into any legal trouble or anything, take us into that a little bit.
So yeah, it goes as far as just getting the equipment, bro, and getting the checks, printing them out, matching the rounding account numbers, and just jamming the ATM machine with them.
And when you say jamming the ATM machine, like I said, I don't want to get in any legal trouble or anything. So without too much being given out or anything. So is that like physically messing up the ATM machine, or is that just like, what do you get from jamming it?
So it's just like I'm just pretty much just stuffing the ATM machine until like the check actually like clears, pretty much. So instead of me going cash it in the bank, I'll just go to the ATM machine, which is more easier, and I just jam the ATM machine with the check until I get the receipt up.
Okay. And so what type of money are you seeing with the level of scamming that you're participating in or at that time?
So yeah, it varies. It just all depends on the cash out on the check. So I can see anywhere between 35 to 9,000. I could possibly see, anywhere to 40,000. It just all depends on how much the check cleared.
What's the most you ever hit for during that time period when you were doing those scams?
Most I hit for between 40 to 80,000.
$80,000, even $40,000. That's a lot of people's salary. There's people who don't even make that. So to make that in like, what's the time period? Like a month, 2 months? What is that? Like maybe once a year?
It would look that way, but it really varies. So it could be within a month, 2 months, 3 months. It just all depends on how hard that you invest in to get your check, to get your bread, to get your pay. It all depends.
And if you're doing this level of scamming, you got to have somebody on the inside, right? Or I mean, are you able to do this all by yourself? Just dolo?
You can, because when you first starting off, of course, you're gonna have somebody that also does it with you, that knows it, because they brought that to you. So it's like you learn, and then eventually you venture off by yourself, and you become dolo with it.
So for you specifically, with your experience in the scamming, tell us how that go for you. What were you able to actually? So you hit for 80,000. You came up. Were you able to actually invest that money and turn it into 100,000 or 120,000, anything like that?
Not gonna lie, when I first started off, I was just crashing out doing dumb things. I mean, I was a teenager at the time when I was doing this, so my mind wasn't thinking like that. I'm thinking about getting the latest fashion, maybe a new car, a spot, just chunking my money off. But as I got older, when I did it, I did tend to think about maybe I should go invest my money into some type of, Bitcoin or some type of real estate or property or things of that nature. So yeah, it has came across with that type of thing.
Now scamming, I mean that comes with a lot of time. Well, I don't know actually how much time it comes with. I'm gonna be honest. Um, but it does come with consequences. At the time when you were doing that, did you know about the consequences?
I had a brief idea what it came with, but I just always figured like maybe this would happen to me because it's a white collar crime. I'm not showing no face, no case. You feel me? So I'm behind the scenes when I'm doing this. So as long as my hands is not actually on the work or whatever the case, it can never connect back to me.
Okay. And at the time, so you're making this money, you're doing your thing as far as it goes with the scamming. How are your friends around you, or how are the people around you reacting to this? Are they trying to benefit off of you, or are you honestly keeping it low key?
Keeping it low key, like this is my own thing because if anything was to happen, I don't want they names or anything to come back to them, chase them and incriminate them. So it's just like me, I'll take the downfall because this was my operation. You feel me? This actually was my job at the time. So anything falls, I let it fall on me. So I kept it low key.
Okay. And did you actually get caught doing that or anything? Or did everything run smoothly when you were doing that in the past?
Everything was moving smoothly. Like I had yet to came across to run into the laws or anything of that nature. It just everything was just kept low key. The way I moved, the strategic plan of how I was doing everything. Like you would never know that it was me. Like I said, I was behind the scenes, so I kept it very professional and low key for sure.
Okay. And now I know a lot of people, when you're making money at a young age, you're not wise. And a lot of times we let the money overcrowd our best judgment. We don't really know what's best for us. Um, and a lot of envy begins to grow around us. And a lot of our friends, we start to see that they're not really our friends. A lot of our homeboys, we start seeing they're not really with us. Um, did you see anybody grow greed or like envy around you? And did you have to separate, or anybody try to rob you or anything? Because when you're in the streets, and I consider like scamming, that's like in the streets. So when you're in the streets, I mean, it's a dirty game. So did that ever happen to you or anything like that?
Yeah, you always gotta, and it sucks. You always gotta peep and look behind your shoulder because it can always be somebody coming behind you, for greed. So I had tendencies where that was like that, like where I had plays and guys wasn't even happy with a certain amount that they got, or they wanted more. So they would look for ways to try to do harm or try to do anything to get some more paper or something like that. So I had to distance myself. So there's been times where I had to just like flee to remove myself so I wouldn't incriminate myself or get caught up in any of that type of things and stuff like that.
Okay. Did anybody ever? So you said you're strategic. A lot of people believe they're strategic until somebody else is more strategic. I guess what I'm asking is, did anybody ever get the drop on you or anything like that? Did it ever become a point where you come home and like, man, my house has been raided, or my house is tore apart, or anything like that? Or I mean, were you completely in the green?
Like it was for a point in time I was completely in the green, but I had one incident where like I was out one night and like I guess some people might have found out where I was laying my head at the time and stuff like that because you don't shit where you stay, where you rest your head at. So the spot that I was at, I came home, I found some things missing, tore up, or whatever the case. So that was just like my sign to be like maybe I need to jump ship and flee somewhere else because like somebody might know of my whereabouts or where I'm at and stuff like that because they know that I'm having pretty much.
Okay. And at that point in time, you listen to your intuition, or did you stay? Did you flee?
Yeah, I fled like, I ain't no runner. I've never been a track star, so I'm gonna have mentioned that. It just, my life at the time was in danger. So, I didn't want to put myself in harm's way or anybody that was around me in harm's way. So, I just fled the scene. So I left.
Okay. And eventually, did you continue the scamming, or did you move into like a different walk of life? Or go ahead and tell us your experience. I mean, what's life taking you through at that point where you then fled? Are you saying you done with this?
Yeah, I took a brief break. I took a little brief break because like I said, I was set up pretty well at the time. So I'm just like, I don't need to keep doing this. I got a little money in my pocket and stuff like that to keep me above water. So I took a little brief break and then, opportunity, it always presents itself. So after a while, I eventually got back in it once I seen the opportunity.
Okay. And then as far as the opportunity, what was that opportunity, if you don't mind me asking?
That opportunity was like I had did a play before, but I had forgot about it. So like I had a check mailed out to me, and like I had been banished this check like a long time ago, and just so happened it just mysteriously found its way back to me. So I'm just like, okay, I remember I did cash in on this play. I did hit for these numbers, but there was so much stuff going on at the time. So I just like F that, I'm just send that check away, and then it just so happened found me back. Its way back to me, and it was up from there.
How much was this for, if I may ask, or if it's too much information to be given out, then hey, we can keep it discreet.
I don't mind saying, this the raw and uncut, and I promise I dwell on that. So yeah, it was a $40,000 check.
Oh, well, now were you down at the time? Like, were you in the rut? Because like I said, like you just said, somebody had just broken into your home. So did they actually take anything?
They took, when they did break into my house at the time, yeah, they took some things. Like they took like the speaker, they took some of my shoes, my clothes, TV.
Ooh.
Like, I had some bottles in there, some cough medicine in there. They took that.
Okay, yeah, they came up a little bit. So you definitely took a hit. So I mean, to come up on $40,000, I mean, that definitely had to feel good at that time.
Oh, definitely. I definitely needed it. Like I said, I had some bread. I had some bread saved up. I was working at the time too, but it's nothing better than when you send that check with some zeros on there. So it definitely helped out.
Definitely. And so, I mean, how does somebody even withdraw like $40,000? Like, I'm gonna be honest with you. I would be scared to attempt to withdraw $40,000 cash that I know I legally didn't acquire.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you can, can you shed a little light on how can you withdraw $40,000?
So you don't withdraw all at one time. So how I did it, first and foremost, it was a cashier check. And anybody tell you a cashier check, that's guaranteed. Like the bank got to pay you that. They got to honor that because that check is written out to your name. And it's a cashier check. That's guaranteed. So what I did was that bank that I X'd out or whatever, instead of me going banking with them again, I went to the next bank that I was banking with at the time. So, they was able to clear my check. They told me it would take 2 weeks, but it ended up taking probably 1 to 2 business days. I didn't even believe it at first. Trust me, I didn't believe it at first because remind you, I threw that check away a long time ago. So I'm like, man, this could be fake, whatever the case may be. So boom, I go to my bank and then, I deposited a check. They like, you know what? We're gonna give you us about 1 or 2 weeks before we clear it. They end up clearing it. I end up calling on my lunch break one day, and I checked my balance, and they were just like, "You got 40,000, and some cents." And I'm just like, "Nah, it ain't no way, bro. Like this got to be fake." So I called back again. They like, "Yeah, your current balance is 40,000 and such cent." I'm like, "No way." I go check my phone, and that money there, bro. That was all the evidence I needed right there. Let me know.
And for the viewers watching, we're not trying to glamorize this or anything. My goal is to honestly, because at the end of this, I mean, like I said, there are consequences for this. There are countless individuals who have been caught for this, and the consequences are pretty sturdy, if I may say.
Right.
So I don't want to make it seem as if we're glamorizing this or encouraging anybody to attempt to do this for quick cash. If you get it fast, you lose it fast. So we don't want to do that at all. But I must ask, what's your next move? So you got the 40,000, you figured out how to withdraw it. What's next?
So my next move, I'm like, me at the time, like I was an honor student. So like,
and not to cut you off or anything, but how old were you at this time?
At this time, I was 20. I was actually going to be 21.
Okay, so you're a young 20-year-old. You got your hands. So this isn't your first time with a large amount of money. Have you ever had more? You've had more than 40,000 before?
This was actually like my first. Like up until that point, I didn't touch at least like anywhere between 10 to 15.
So this is the first time you've had this much money.
This is my first time. Yeah.
What is BaggRu at 20 years old thinking on doing with $40,000?
At the time, I'm thinking like, man, I can, of course, like I can give me a new vehicle, give me a little place to spot, like to stay. And then at the time, I was thinking about going back to school too. That's always been like a dream of mine to go back to school and get my degree in psychology. So like, I wanted to get my majors in psychology. So that was my plan at the time. Like, I didn't think, of course, I was thinking about getting like clothes and of that nature and helping out where I can and stuff like that. So that was my goal at the time, or what I wanted to do with my money.
Okay, because so we because I'm thinking, so we've transitioned from you growing up and you were really heavily influenced by the gangs and you're really focused on the gang banging and earning your stripes as a gang member, and then we move into later on in life. Now you're a 20-year-old, you got some money, you probably got a lot more than a lot of your gang buddies if you're still in contact with them. You're not at all focused on going back and doing anything for the gang or anything, or are you more so past that point at 20?
At 20, I mean, I'm still for the game, like whatever game need. But I drifted past that because I see something more than that. Especially when I'm having talks with the OGs and they letting me know like, hey, it's more to it than just banging the set or repping the flag. It's also about respect and like how you carry yourself and present yourself to the world and stuff like that. Like we don't just always be about the flag and the sets or out here robbing, killing, and stealing. No, that's not even where that originated from. It's about us handling our business, protecting our community, taking care of our families, doing what a man's supposed to do. So I'm transitioning to that, from being a young man to a man.
Okay. And so from the scamming, tell us, how do you go into actually catching your first charge, your first federal charge? Actually, what is your first federal charge?
My first federal charge was human smuggling. That was my first one. So that's my first Fed case. My first ever case was my aggravated assault with a deadly weapon.
And was that federal as well, or was that state?
That was state. So
Okay.
I had a state case first.
So how do you go from, the white collar crimes, you're scamming, to eventually moving into smuggling? Because that's a whole nother lane. That's a whole nother field. Tell us about that.
So how I got into that, I got through that with a mutual friend. Like he introduced me, like his girl was putting him here to the play or whatever the case. And, he brought it to my attention. He was just like, yeah, bro, this is a way that you can make a quick 5K right quick.
Not to cut you off. So his girl, well, these women, you would think it's the guy, but his girl is actually the one who's hip to it all.
Right.
She's the one who has the resource, or the plug, as some might say.
Right.
Or the connect. Wow. Okay. So I think that's something. All right. Anyway, so tell us, go ahead and continue. I apologize for cutting you off.
Yeah, so his girl at the time was the one that hipped us, put us hip to the play or whatever. So, she brought it to our attention like, I gotta pay for you to make 5,000. I'm like, is it with the checks or like what we doing? She like, nah, this is a different type of field. Like you'll be out here smuggling. So I'm thinking it's only three types of smuggling. I'm thinking about drug trafficking.
I'm sorry, man. It's just screaming in my spirit. Doesn't it sound just like Adam and Eve? Doesn't it sound like Eve when she approached Adam with that fruit? Try this.
Right. Yeah, just try this. Like, you can make it quick. All we doing is making runs. So I'm just I'm thinking, I'm piecing everything together. So after that, after she bring it to our attention, I'm like, okay, cool. So boom, that's when my homeboy was just like, yeah, I'm gonna introduce you to the head honcho. Well, actually, first I'm gonna introduce you to his right hand man, and then you're gonna meet the head honcho. So he put me on the call with bro and them. Bro running down the plate, asking me about myself, telling me like, what I be doing or whatever the case. Broke it down to me like, this is what we doing, we moving. So I'm asking him the same question. I'm like, you saying we moving? Like, are we moving weight or like, what are we exactly moving? He like, we moving people. We call them runs. So I'm like, okay. So he just like, that's pretty much human smuggling. They like, yeah. So he just like, you go on these runs in different checkpoints of the United States or whatever. We might send you to a different checkpoint or whatever. You get paid half. You get paid half up front, and then you get the other half when you complete the mission type shit. So I'm like, all right, bet. So after that, they just like, yeah, we feeling you or whatever. We like what we hearing from you. We got good word of mouth from your peers and shit like that. They invited me out that night. They invited me out talking about, let's go to a section. Let's let's party before we actually get to work. So they just gonna see me on the run at night.
So you've never hung out with these guys before this moment. They're telling you to come meet at a club or a bar or something. A club, correct?
Correct.
They're telling you come meet at the club, come hang out. Um, nothing at no point nothing tells you, man, this is not a good idea.
Yeah, I did that the night that they asked me to go to the club, so I wasn't really feeling that.
And so you mentioned that you were asking them repeatedly, is this what it is? Is this what it is? Is this basically human smuggling? Is it basically, or are we basically moving some people? Are we moving? And they were giving you the runaround, it sounded like, correct?
Right.
But eventually, did you get the confirmation before going out there that that's what it was?
Yeah, I got the confirmation, like when he told me that he gonna send me out the following day. So remind you, when I'm talking to the guys, I'm talking to them like on a Friday or Saturday. So the next day, he like, I'm gonna send you out on the Sunday. Our runs go from Sunday, I think Sunday, Wednesday, and I think Fridays. So he's just like, I'm gonna send you on the nearest one, which was on a Sunday. So as he's like, bro, I just need you to be on the road by 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, all right, bet, because this is an 8 hour drive. So as I'm getting there, he like, bro, let me know when you get to a certain point in your trip, and I'm gonna let you know what you need to be doing going forward and everything else.
So once you realized what you were doing, and did you then look into what the consequences could be?
Not really. I'm looking at it like, okay, this just human trafficking. Like, I know I'm not supposed to be doing this, but I know they no offense to any illegals or anything like that in the descent. But I'm looking at it like, okay, if I got some people with me and I know they're not supposed to be here or whatever the case, maybe they'll just look at it like, bro, like you shouldn't be doing that. Where he come from or where she come from, they give me a slap on the wrist just because, you're not supposed to be doing that. I understand that you're helping that person or whatever, but you're not supposed to be doing that. But I didn't know that it was that serious until, I got incarcerated.
So you're saying human trafficking, but I believe that it is human smuggling. I don't think what you're doing was trafficking, because trafficking is getting them into the country, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and selling them across country. Where more so you weren't selling people, you were moving them. Correct. While already in the state. So I believe that's smuggling.
Correct. Correct. My fault. My apology.
And I might be mistaken, but I believe that's what that is. But so you looked into it a little, but you underestimated the consequences. Go ahead and continue to tell us about your experience. So he hit you up, and he's hitting you up at every checkpoint. You reached a certain checkpoint, and how does it go from there?
So how it goes from there, like, he'll tell me, like, once you get to this certain destination, ring them in, let them know, like, how far I am from the next checkpoint. He'll let me know, like, okay, this is where you need to go to get these supplies. This is where you need to go get this person. This person gonna meet you here. He just basically give me the rundown, the whole play of like what I should be looking out for, where I should be heading, where I should go. Once I get to this location, call them, make sure everything is all right. So I get to my location, and I'm getting there. So I'm trying to beat the clock myself. I'm telling him, like, I'm not trying to be out here all day. This was a very long drive, and I got things to do when I get back home too. So let's make this a speed up process. So he's like, yeah, man, just be on the lookout for this vehicle. This person gonna be this place. This person gonna be that place. Be on the lookout. They coming towards you. He like, once you get them in, set them up with the whoop. And then they like, just go to your next checkpoint before you head out. Call me. I'm gonna do a expectation of your vehicle. Make sure everything is in place and instilled. And then boom, you can get back on the road after that. So once I did everything like that, he gave me the thumbs up, and that's when I started proceeding to go back to where I was going.